And we say, what's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Christian Ballard Sports Media, coming at you live just to talk. I'm not really going to drop the link because I don't have all the time in the world. I do have to be at work at 2 o'clock Central Time, but here at practically 11:30 a.m., uh, I, I I was fixing to say I felt like I needed to go live, but that's not necessarily true. I want to go live. I wanted to talk a little bit, look at the current AP poll, talk about what it could look like tonight for the CFP initial rankings for the first year of the 12-team playoff. We got some big games this weekend. Texas hosting Florida. Miami goes to Georgia Tech. If Georgia Tech can win, they will solidify a spot for a bowl game at 6-4. They're 5-4 currently, and Miami, who's 9-0, will take their first loss of the season. Michigan goes to Indiana, who's undefeated. Michigan 5-4. If they win, they get to go to a bowl game. Virginia Tech at home. I think I had made a video on this actually yesterday. We had talked a little bit about it, but there's a couple different teams with like bowl game implications on the line. It's not. There's some teams I think out there that if they lose, it will be loss number 7. I don't know who that is exactly. I'm sure it's lower tier schools, but you also have teams that could go ahead and say we're bowl eligible at least when it comes to this season. You know, Michigan's got 5 wins. If they win this weekend, which I doubt because they play Indiana, Indiana's a really good team. If Michigan pulls it off, it's like, okay, well, we're going to a bowl. So but yeah, it is a very special Tuesday here on November 5th, 2024, because of the college football playoff rankings tonight. Plus, there's some political thing. I think it's like an election or something. I'm not going to get into all that. I will say go vote because it is important. Leadership is important in this country. And, you know, regardless of who is in charge, from a Christian standpoint, be praying and continue to pray for whoever's in charge and pray for really just pray for peace more than anything else in this country. So, but enough about that. That's all I got to say there. What is nameless? What's up? Oregon's doing well, but they'll never win a championship, in my opinion, no matter how much money they have. You might be right. I think Oregon's got a case this year, though. They're doing really good. They can make a playoff run, but I might agree. They until I see them do it, I don't know if that's a team I can pick to win a natty. I really don't. So let's go ahead. Let's dive into. I'm kind of. I didn't plan anything as far as a prediction for the rankings tonight, but at the same time, I would like to look at the AP poll and kind of go through who could be where. I don't think I made. Well, hold on. Let me see something. I tried to make one this morning, um, and I didn't fully go through with it. At least I was trying to make a ranking deal. Um, but here's what we'll do: we will pull up the top 25 now. That's in the AP poll from the Associated Press, and we'll look at it. Let's full screen this here real quick. Take this comment. Thanks for showing up, Nameless. Appreciate you. Thank you to everyone watching. So here's your top 25 in the AP poll. Oregon number 1, Georgia number 2, Ohio State, Miami, Texas, Penn State, Tennessee, Indiana, BYU, and Notre Dame to round out the top 10. And then you get into the Alabama, Boise State kind of deal there. Um, So what will they take into account? Well, obviously, it's the same old, same old. Just because we expand to 12 teams doesn't mean necessarily that the rules change other than how they pick the playoff later on. So it's still going to be based on a couple different things. Number one, the eye test, which I never understood. Oh, how they look on paper or how they look on the field performance. I don't know. I think it's based on-field performance, but I know for sure they base it off strength of schedule and break that down into a couple different things as far as who did you play, where were you ranked, where were they ranked, how much did you win by, where was the game? They take everything into account, everything into consideration for these rankings. And Oregon currently is the number one team in the country. Georgia behind them, Ohio State, Miami, Texas, Penn State, Tennessee, Indiana, and BYU. Is this going to look similar to tonight? Like, is this AP ranking right here, this top 10 plus Alabama there at 11, as you see, and then so on? Is this what we're getting tonight? Possibly, possibly not. Are they going to rank them based on record? They could. They have a process for the rankings. But they have criteria too. At least, hold on. I believe there is criteria not so much for the rankings as there is for selection day come time for the playoffs. I know with the 14 playoff, they had a certain system they used in order to get a team in. I don't know how much it has changed for the 12-team playoff. I know how the playoff system works, but take for example the at-large bids. If they can take a two-loss team, like let's say on the line, let's say you have Clemson fighting for a spot, and let's take one of these two-loss SEC teams like A&M or Ole Miss. Now, keep in mind, there is no head-to-head tiebreaker with those teams. Clemson doesn't play any SEC teams this year outside of Georgia at the beginning and later on South Carolina. But what is the tiebreaker? You know, if you're fighting for that 12 or 11 or whatever, like the last Power 4 spot, and a two-loss team can make it, right? What do you look into as far as um, how this team's going to get in? Double check the comments real quick. Nameless says, I'm just going to randomly pick a team, but with 12 teams, it feels like I'm picking basketball, but it may be Ole Miss, Georgia, Penn State, and Texas. Got to add some random teams in there. Yeah. You don't pick them at random. Like there's a criteria for this committee. There really is. And in fact, I think on the playoff website, I can look it up. College football playoff criteria. Let's see. Um, okay. So ESPN, this was put out by Heather Dinich on ESPN, May 27th of this year. So obviously, like the five highest ranked conference champions and the next seven highest ranked teams will earn a spot in the 12-team bracket. There's no limit to how many teams from one conference can qualify. The rules also don't guarantee spots for certain conferences, but the champions of the Big 12, SEC, ACC, and Big 10 will almost 9 times out of 10, let's say, certainly qualify routinely, along with the highest ranked champion from the Mountain West, American Athletic Conference, the AAC, the Sun Belt, Mid American, and Conference USA. How does the seeding work? Let's see. We know. What about rematches? Oh, this is interesting. I never read this part. There won't be any modifications made to avoid rematches or games between schools from the same conference. That's interesting. What's up, Cody? How you doing? Honestly, with 12 teams now, it's kind of about consistency, and this year, a lot of big teams kinda seem to be one-dimensional, so it could be Texas this year. It could be, it could be. They're my preseason pick for the Natty, but honestly, it could be anybody out there, but, yeah, you look at teams like Notre Dame, well, not Notre Dame, what am I saying? Army and Navy, right? When you look at Group of 5, those are the best, right? Now Boise State's up there. I almost said SMU, but they're now in the ACC. BYU's in the Big 12, but Boise State in the Mountain West is still considered Group of 5. They're most likely your Group of 5 champion that's gonna be the highest ranked unless Army does remain unbeaten, and Army, I guess, has a good shot at that. Let me check their schedule. I know they play Navy, obviously. North Texas on the road, home against Notre Dame, UTSA, and Navy. Before the Navy game, there's a good chance that they finish 11-0 before Navy. There's also a chance they drop Notre Dame and they go 11-1. Now, does that kick them out? No. The winner of the Navy game, Navy is 6-2. If Navy loses any more games, they're definitely out of the playoffs. In fact, I don't know if they would take a group of 5 10-2 team. I'm not saying it can't happen, obviously, but I don't I think that the 2 lost teams that get in obviously be like the 10 through 12 seed somewhere, and, like, you're only gonna get a handful that get in, but I think they're gonna all be Power 4. Um, but yeah, I, uh I'm excited for these rankings. I really am. I keep thinking so much about the election and everything that I almost forgot about them, but then I'm like, "Oh, wait, we got that too." All of it's very important. This is important if you're a college football fan. The election and everything's just important for this nation, which we love. Uh, we love the nation. I don't know if we always love elections, but I don't want to get too far into that. But um, anyway, it's, yeah. But yeah, I don't really have too much of a prediction of what it's going to look like tonight. I mean, I'll say this. Let's say maybe Oregon stays put at 1. Georgia did beat Texas, who was unbeaten up until that point, which was like last week or so, uh, or week before. I think it's going to look fairly similar to the top 25. But I guess the big question I have is, are they going to start out these rankings? Are they going to rank all the undefeated teams first? I think if you did that, you would have Oregon, you would have Miami. I'm looking Indiana, BYU, Army, and then that's it. But that's your top 5. But I don't think they're gonna do that. Now, outside of Army, and no disrespect to them, but if they did do that, you might put I mean, is there a scenario where Miami jumps Georgia and Ohio State to number 2? I think it's clear that Oregon looks like the number 1 team right now, at least based on record. I don't think they all around are collected to be the number 1 team. I'm not saying they can't be. I'm not saying that it's absurd to keep them at 1 in tonight's rankings. All I'm trying to say is that Oregon and Miami and Indiana are 9-0. All the other undefeated teams are 8-0. If you win 9 straight games, I don't care who you play. That's impressive. especially in Power 4. But they have really good wins. They beat Ohio State, who beat Penn State, right? They beat number 20 Illinois. Michigan doesn't look too good, but it's still a good win at the Big House last week. And they got Maryland coming up. They got Wisconsin. Um, Oregon, I think. Look, they have the head-to-head over Ohio State. Well, look at this. I think your Big Ten is probably going to be Indiana, Oregon. I mean, could we see that scenario where they win out? Indiana does have to play Ohio State on the road on the 23rd, but Michigan this week at home win. I would think Purdue's terrible. If Indiana and Oregon meet up in the Big Ten title, like obviously the loser probably still get in there. The winners getting a top 4 seed somewhere, probably even number 1. Anyway, I'm saying a lot, I know. I'm excited for these rankings, I really am. Um, but all right, thanks for stopping by, Cody. Love you, brother. Appreciate you. Let's see. Texas, Penn State, Tennessee. How much do they okay, you look at Tennessee, right? I think questions like Tennessee, you beat number 24 NC State. Here's what I say too. At the time you beat a team should matter. You can't control what a team does after the fact, right? Like, what's NC State's record right now? They were 24 in week 2 when Tennessee beat them 51-10 on the road. Well, NC State's 5-4. So right now, it's not looking like it's much of a good win. I mean, they've lost to teams like Wake Forest and Syracuse, but is that on Tennessee? No. No, it's not. It's not Tennessee's fault that a team they beat when they were ranked ended up going 2-3 in conference play and might limp to a bowl game if they could get Duke this week. It's not Tennessee's fault. It's not. What's another good example? I'm trying to think. What's another team we could pick on here? Give an example. I don't know. Um, Alabama, maybe. I mean, what do you make of Alabama? What do you do with them? Because it's weird. Are they gonna value that Georgia win? "Oh, Georgia's the best." Well, if Georgia's the best, Alabama's got the best win. Vandy, after they beat Bama, has looked pretty darn good. Tennessee looks good. It's not like they have bad losses. They just happen to have 2, and they're both close by 5 and then 7, so combined 12 points in 2 games. They did shut out number 21 Missouri. Well, Missouri's gonna fall off. Is that Alabama's fault? Georgia beat Texas, Bama beat Georgia. Um, what if Bama, let's say we go to next week's rankings. What if they beat LSU? Well, they still got 2 losses. So they beat number 14 or wherever LSU gets placed tonight. They beat that team. They're going to be ranked. I mean, all I'm trying to get at is you got all these good teams out there. Alabama's a great team. They really are. They might have 2 losses. I still think they're great. I think Georgia's a great team. I think Texas is a great team. Oregon, obviously. Um, we need to look at a good example. I think that Ole Miss having 2 losses. Now, can they stay alive for the playoffs and take care of business against Georgia on Saturday at home? That's a big question. 2.5-point spread. I don't know what to make of that game. I don't really want to mess with it too much. I mean, it favors Ole Miss matchup predictor wise. Uh, They Ole Miss lost to Kentucky close and LSU close, both by 3 points, 1 in overtime at LSU. Okay, you can only control every single week by yourself. If Ole Miss beats Georgia, they're still alive. If 2 lost teams could get in, right? They're still alive. Georgia takes a second loss. Okay, second conference loss for them. Ole Miss has, um, their 8th win on the year, pulls an upset. I think it's possible, but probably not likely that they win this game, even though regardless of matchup predictor. Anyway, Georgia and Ole Miss play this week, 2:30 kick. Gonna be a great game, really great game. Lane Kiffin and Kirby Smart, come on, man. Defensive guru, meet offensive guru. But again, when you look at these teams, um, I'm gonna be honest. I'm kind of forgetting where I'm trying to go with this. But oh, only you can like control who you play. So like, that let's say Ole Miss loses a game down the road. Okay, let's say they lose like the Egg Bowl, but Georgia had beat them this Saturday. Or let's say Georgia loses this game. I guess let's say if Georgia loses, they take their second loss. They're a two-loss team, but they still look really good this year. But Ole Miss drops another game somewhere like Mississippi State that they're not supposed to lose. Is it Georgia's fault that they lose to Mississippi State? No. Is Ole Miss a good team? Mid-season, yes, they were obviously good enough to beat Georgia and teams like Arkansas and Oklahoma, right? But at the same time, can Georgia control what Ole Miss does after an upset? No, no, you can't. That's why it kills me when they say you lost to this team that ended up going this record. How, how was I supposed to know? Especially when it's in conference too. People made fun of Alabama for losing to Vanderbilt. I didn't know they were gonna be 6-3 right now. Nobody did. They said, "Oh, you lost Vandy." And I get laughing at that, it's Vandy. But Vandy's looking pretty hot right now at 6-3. And they're not going to the playoffs. They're also not going to an SEC title, but they're sitting with 3 losses. Vanderbilt, here in November, at 24 in the nation. That's awesome. That is awesome. Nameless says, "Georgia's still going to be in. They like Georgia." Yeah, yeah, I agree. Georgia's gonna make it, whether they make the SEC or not. Basically, to sum up what I was trying to say, if you lose a game to a team that's already looked bad, that's on you. If you're better, right? But if you lose to a team that's good at the moment, like they're good, but then they fall off, get complacent after a win or something. Like, let's say, okay, Texas plays Florida. There's no excuse for Texas losing to Florida at home this week because Florida's 4-4, right? Like, they're already bad. Well, let's say if they were good, let's say having played 8 games, let's say both these teams were hypothetically like 6-2 or 7-1. Texas is 7-1. Let's say Florida's good. Let's say Florida upsets Texas on the road. Okay, cool. What happens after that game, though? Florida falls off. Does it look bad on Texas for having lost that game? At the time, it's not bad that you lost to a 2-loss or 1-loss Florida team. They're a good team. They're looking better, right? Things are looking up. At the time, it didn't seem like it. Later on, it might. Here's another good example. Kansas is 2-6. Iowa State's 7-1. They go to Kansas. Looking at this here. Kansas pulls an upset over number 17 Iowa State this Saturday and then finds a way to win out the rest of their games, makes a bowl 6-6. Well, maybe that is a bad example. I don't know if I wanna sit there with, like, Iowa State's one of their losses being a 6-6 Kansas, even though congrats to Kansas, I guess, but I don't know. I hope you guys get what I'm trying to say. There's only so much you can control as a college football team. You can only control what you do, you can only control how you perform, and how you play against each opponent, and how your opponent performs that week. Alabama can't control what Auburn does this weekend. They can't control the fact that Auburn is gonna probably only have 2 or 3 wins by the Iron Bowl. They can't do that. But when it comes time for that game, you know, you can control how you play against Auburn, knowing they have a lot of weaknesses. Knowing that, you can control how you play against them. Just giving other examples. But again, the rankings tonight, looking forward to it. Oregon right now is the number 1 team, and they probably will be tonight. Again, if you based it off where they are right now, but also based on records, uh, put them in any Oregon, Miami, Indiana, any other 9-0 teams? Let me see. No. So, Oregon, Miami, Indiana, BYU are your top 4 teams. But again, that's only if it's based on record. It's not based on record, but also, Oregon and Indiana, let's leave them out a little bit, but let's say Miami's up there, top of the ACC, BYU at the top of the Big 12, and then who else did I say was unbeaten? Army, yeah, independent, but still at the top. They'll take based on how the playoff looks tonight. They'll take it based on, well, here's how it's gonna look on selection day, so, this is how we're gonna do it. So they're gonna probably put in the top 4 highest ranked conference champions, although in this case, we don't have champions, but we have who's leading the standings. I'm at least assuming that's what they're gonna do. I think it makes things interesting because we have a new system, and they really have only told us how they're gonna do the selection show and process. How they're gonna do the next 3 or 4 ranking shows before selection day is actually gonna be pretty interesting to see. And it'd be cool, well, I don't know if it'd be cool or crazy, but it'd be interesting to see if what we're getting the next couple weeks is what we end up getting, uh, come December. That would be fun. Fun to watch. My unrealistic pick to win it, win what? Is Iowa State. I've always liked them as a USC fan, jokingly called them better USC. Uh, you talking about, Iowa State winning a natty? I think they're good enough. I think almost anyone out there, if you're ranked in the top 15, you have a chance at the playoff, you have a chance at a natty. This year is so weird with upsets and expansion and everything and realignment. If you can make it, you can win it. It's up for grabs. I don't think there's a clear cut best team out there. I know they put Oregon at number one. They might have the best record along with Miami and Indiana at 9-0. But I don't think there's a clear cut, hey, this is truly the best team to beat right now. I don't think it's set up like that this year. I think it's you have all these great teams trying to be the best at the end of the season. Let's see, what else could we talk about? Not dropping the link today, by the way. I would love to talk to you guys, but at the same time, I figured I'd just kind of come on for a bit. I just wanted to look at the current rankings and kind of give my thoughts on, again, what it could look like tonight. Yeah, you got Tennessee and Penn State, Texas, probably your three best one-loss teams. Well, you got Ohio State up there who beat Penn State, so maybe Ohio State, Texas, and then I guess maybe Penn State. I mean, Tennessee did beat Bama though. I don't know. There's a lot of good teams out there, man. There, like I said, don't be surprised. I said it in the off season. I said it at the start of the season. I said, don't be surprised with chaos, and don't be surprised if it ends up being a um, like just not a nobody, but like a underdog year. Don't be surprised. A lot of teams are one dimensional, like Alabama and Michigan, and a lot of other teams that depend on one thing. So I think a lot of these smaller teams can shut those out. What do you mean by smaller teams? Are you talking the BYUs of the world? Are you talking group of 5 like Boise State? Um, I mean, yeah. I mean, is SMU a smaller school? Is Army a smaller school? They're great schools, educational and what they represent, but football school. Let's talk football. So you're saying a lot of the smaller schools, the smaller teams really can shut those out. Um, a lot of teams are one dimensional, like Alabama and Michigan. Yes. A lot of other teams that depend on one thing, so I think a lot of these smaller teams can shut those out. I think I get what you're saying. You can correct me if I'm wrong, nameless. But I think what you're saying is you have the teams like Michigan or Alabama that are one dimensional to say, and then also you have the smaller schools that you think there are weaknesses for teams like Alabama or Michigan that even a smaller school, if they wanted it bad enough, could they win that type of matchup? Is that what you're trying to say? What's up, man? Good to see you, buddy. I don't know. Louisville and Vandy got ranked, both 6 and 3. Vandy will be ranked top, like between 20 and 25. I would think. Other teams that are not ranked that you could see: Missouri, South Carolina, Washington or Tulane, UNLV, Iowa. They dropped Illinois and they have dropped Missouri. I think there's a really good chance Missouri was at 25. I could see them, you know, getting in to the rankings tonight, I guess. Wasn't that Bama loss? Was that not their third or second loss? Do they already have two? Let me see. I don't know. I'd have to pull it up. My phone's ESPN's not working. So let me see. Let's see who have Missouri played. Who had they played? Well, they got shut out to Alabama. That's their last game. They were on a bye, and now they play Oklahoma this week. So they have 2 losses. They could climb the standings in the SEC if they win out, which I think they could do. Oklahoma at home, night game. South Carolina afternoon, on the 16th is a road trip. They'll beat Mississippi State, and I know it's a rivalry game, but I think they could possibly get Arkansas too. But that's kind of a coin flip game, a rivalry game I never mess with. But Mississippi State's one more win, put them at 7. I think they could win out. I think their biggest challenge is Oklahoma this week at home, but we'll see. Anyway, I think I've said everything I've wanted to say. I guess I could drop that link for you guys just in case anyone has any thoughts on the rankings. I'd love to hear from you guys. We're just live on YouTube today. If you're watching this back, thank you. Love it. Appreciate you guys. Uh, I just got to make sure I leave in like 55 minutes, so make it quick, you know. um, I'm ready to go, but like, so Iowa State. Kansas disappointed me this year. Colorado. I think Colorado, can they not get the Big 12 this year? They're second, technically. They're tied with Iowa State. Um, they don't play BYU or Iowa State. But let's say Colorado wins out. But they need Iowa State to lose another conference game. Then they could sneak up and play BYU in the conference title. I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah, that's kinda what I meant. Any team that's more overall well-rounded has a chance, but if I have to pick any of the big teams, maybe Georgia, Penn State, Tech, he put Texas, I know he meant Texas, and Ole Miss as top 4. Okay, yeah, I can see that. Be cool to see Dion in Colorado. I think it would be cool to see them in the Big 12 title. I think, they have to do their part, but they have to hope, I think, that Iowa State drops a game. I think they're looking at Iowa State or BYU because I want to say this. If Colorado wins out and Iowa State loses another game in the Big 12, which is all they have left, so they need to win out. Colorado does, and Iowa State would need to lose one game, and then Colorado could end up in the Big 12 title against unbeaten BYU, at least unbeaten right now. BYU uh, at Utah this week, Kansas at Arizona State, and then Houston. Nameless. Oh, we lost him. Hold on. Let's see if we can get him back. Click that link again, buddy. We'll see if we can get you back on. Going once, going twice. We'll only be on here a few more minutes unless we get somebody on. Well, we'll see. I'll give Nameless a few more minutes to see if he wants to pop back in. Uh, Let me see. Okay. Sorry for the dead air. I'm checking some stuff. Um, let's see. A lot of tweets or X's, whatever. I don't know what we're calling those these days. It's about that time of year too for Christmas. I love it. I love it. It's here. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't look like we're gonna get anybody on, but I just wanted to come on here for a little bit and talk about these rankings, what they could look like. Um, Obviously, a lot of good teams like BYU or Iowa State in the Big 12, and Colorado's still looking pretty good. Could be ranked somewhere. Don't know if it'd be too high right now, but again, we'll just see what the committee thinks tonight. Uh, I'll be at work during the showing. We'll have that. And again, just be praying for just this country, with it being election day and everything. There's probably going to be chaos. Again, I don't really like to get into it, but at the same time, what's up, Nate? Um, I don't like to get into it, but it's important. We need it, kind of. We need it to an extent. We need leadership, and just pray for God's will to be done. So, anyway, I think that's going to do it for today's show. Love you guys. Jesus loves you. I got to get going to work soon, and it's good to see everyone in here. Um, Thank you, Nameless, Cody, uh, Mayhem, Nate, and Mediocre. What's up? Good to see y'all. I love you guys. Jesus loves you. God bless. And we'll see you real soon here at Ballard Sports Media. Enjoy the playoff rankings tonight. Good luck to your team. God bless.